Hi, I am James Mablin. I'm the resident music director at the Rowe Centre. For Diary of a Wimpy Kid, I am the music director of the show. As far as rehearsals go, I teach all the music to the cast and make sure that everything is working, make sure anything musically to do with the show, whether that be the underscore or the stuff that these kids are actually singing, or our professional cast are singing, then that I will be in charge of making sure we are ready to go. Once we get into theatre, depending on the show, will depend who I have in the pit with me, whether it be musicians or tracks. And then I will conduct the show. So if you come to see the show, I will be the guy in the little hole at the front of the theatre waving his hands around. And that's what I do for a living. Molly.
Hi, everybody. My name is Molly Peary. I am the choreographer for Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And what that is very similar to James, but I do the dance portion of that. So a lot of that is curating all the dances, teaching them to the cast, cleaning, making sure everything looks put together, and staging a lot of things. A lot of it's in collaboration with our director to ensure that transitions look great. And yeah, just all the dancing. There's a lot of dancing in Diaries.
Hi guys, my name's Jessie Higgins. I'm the stage manager for Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And basically what I do is keep track of all the details and handle a lot of the communication between departments. I make sure that anything that happens in rehearsal, that other departments, set, props, things like that, anything they need to know goes into a report at the end of the night. I help manage the schedule and just generally keep these guys on track as we move through the day.
Hello there. My name is Rob Charlo, and I am the Director of Education for Rouse Center School for the Arts, and I am also the Director of Diary of a Wimpy Kid. You will not see me waving my hands in a hole in the front of the stage. I'm sorry, I had to follow up with that. No, so as a director, my job is to put the show on its feet, is to create the imagery and the overall flow of the show, what you actually, as audience members, come to see. I work with the actors one-on-one. I work with them in groups. As Molly said, we collaborate and talk a lot about the choreography and how it fits the theme of the show and how it all goes together and how we get from point A to point B. So, and actually in this show, I'm also in it. So I should mention that. I'm also in it. It's a small role, but I am playing Greg Heffley's father. So, but yeah. And Molly's actually in the show too. Molly's going to be one of our dancers. So yeah, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the musical. The book was written by Kevin Del Aguila and musical lyrics by Michael Mahler and Alan Schumacher. Based on the best-selling book series by Jeff Kinney, which I believe was a New York Times bestseller. But yeah, so they took this book, story about Greg Heffley maneuvering the everyday experiences of junior high, and the highs, the lows, the basic things like popularity and what makes somebody popular, and how do you get on that list of popularity. The overall feel of the show is really about that. It's about what it's like experiencing those trials and tribulations of going through junior high, even touching on things about trust and friendship, especially best friends and problems that they're faced with. But yeah, it's anybody that is a fan of the book is going to recognize a lot of this show, as most of the show is based on the first book in the series that Jeff Kinney wrote. The style of it, the elements of it, the cheese touch, which is a huge thing in the book. Fans of the book will also get to hear the word Zooey Mama screamed a lot, which is a huge iconic line from the book series. And most of the characters that people that read the books enjoy are going to be seen in this show. So I think the audience can kind of expect that journey, especially if they're fans of the books. So they're going to recognize a lot of stuff immediately from the get-go. So
Specifically for Diary, I think what's so exciting about this process is that it's so new and so fresh, and so kind of being able to dig into the many iconic numbers that hail from the original book and have those iconic titles like the Cheese Touch and the Mom Bucks and all that stuff is really exciting because it kind of comes from my childhood and my family, so that was really cool. But like the process of choreography really is kind of, for me at least, very test oriented, very study oriented. It's kind of like studying for a test. You understand the material and you understand what you're working with, but it's also again collaborative. I have a fantastic team that I am very fortunate to work with. So that certainly makes it easier. But it's a lot of knowing what levels you have. There's tons of styles of dance in the world, so kind of knowing where to place things and where to place people is important. But yeah, and it's a lot of honestly like sitting in a room with a piece of paper in front of me and listening to something over and over and over again. So that's also a part of it is too. It's not as like glamorous, but it's at times, but it is just certainly fun. And in the show we have like hip hop, we have like some fun pop numbers. We have just so like a traditional musical theater number. We have a little bit of tap. So it's a lot of stretching into many different styles, which is exciting. What's so cool about this show is that we work with adults in the show, and then we also work with like children and kids and students. And so what has been a really cool challenge and then also equally fulfilling is laying out and presenting this cast with material and helping guide them through. We have students here that have never been on a stage before, have never done a show before, and then we have people that have done many shows. And so as a choreographer, you just have to be really gracious and really open in a rehearsal room. So what I'm hoping as a choreographer, that not only am I helping them learn the material for Diary of a Wimpy Kid, but I'm helping them learn material that they could potentially take into their acting or dancing career in the future.
I think what I'm most excited for is kind of what I'm excited for on every show. And it's just seeing everything come together, just getting into the theater, seeing the set, seeing the lights, the props, seeing the cast get the chance to see all that because, up to this point, they've seen pictures and they've seen drawings, but they don't really get a chance to see it realized until they walk in to the theater for tech. And I really enjoy seeing them see it for the first time and having everything come together.
I think one of the things that always gets me excited about productions and processes like this is seeing relationships form and friendships form, like in the behind the scenes or pre-rehearsal, post-rehearsal. I've been really fortunate to like get to know some of the kids and students and adults, and I'm already seeing such wonderful bonds and wonderful mentorship that's been happening.
Yeah, I think it's one of the most exciting things about this production, this specific one, is that the producing rights for this show just came out this year. They were still in development with the script before we even went into auditions. We hadn't gotten our scripts yet because they were still writing them. The show was produced, I don't remember which year, but there was a professional production of it produced, but it wasn't until this year that they actually released the rights. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me. I'm such a fan of the books themselves, and I've always been a fan of this show since I was able to start listening to it. And of course, working with this team. Fortunately, myself and Jesse and James, we've known each other for a long time. Just to be able to realize this and work with the designers and this cast, because as we've mentioned several times, we are working with ages 10 and to adults. So we have students that are part of RCSA as well as non-equity professional actors that are in the show. So, and I know the word mentorship has come up, and that's true. That's kind of the purpose of that, is for these kids to be able to get that pre-professional experience. So yeah, that's kind of why I'm excited about this, is we are one of the first few to actually be able to produce this since the release, and to be able to work with this group is just an incredible experience. So yeah, that's what I got.
Nice. A
You're
couple of
welcome.
a couple of things for me. I think one is actually pretty much the same as what Rob just said. But the other one for me is that because I became part of the team at the Row at the turn of the year, this is actually going to be my first show in this theatre. Which is great. It's something I'm very much looking forward to. It'll be the first of many, I very much hope. Yeah, so that's exciting. As far as the show itself goes, it's pretty much the same as Rob. I always enjoy doing material that is new, that we can put a stamp on to an extent. Is always exciting. It's a blessing and a curse. Like, we're dealing with issues with it right now. Like, we find things in the in the sheet music, where things are missing that are meant to be there, but it's literally because it is so new right now that no one has told them that it's missing yet, until we come along, and we're driving them crazy all the time, saying you need to add this in and add this in, and they're sending us different versions of the
Hey,
music.
they thank us though every
do.
time we do.
They do, yeah. But that's part of what this is, and that's part of what the excitement is. You know, we're trying, to an extent, trying it, as well as another other theaters as well at the moment. We're trying out new material for them, you know, and that's exciting. So, yeah, I was going to talk a little bit about the cast and the people that we have in the show. A lot of what I'm saying is very similar to what Molly was talking about, and it's the fact that we really do have a very wide range in the show, from kids who this is their first show on stage, through to professional adults in the show as well. It's a really wide range. Obviously, at the same time, also dealing with kids who haven't very much experience, through to adults who have a great deal of experience. And to an extent, you just work to the highest common denominator with that, while at the same time making sure you don't set people up to fail, is the best way I can describe it. And it just comes from experience as well. You learn when you're teaching the music. The music will be set out where you'll get the obviously the instrumental part, and then you get all the vocal lines, especially in ensemble numbers, on top of each other, where they're all singing different notes to make a harmony, for those who don't know or haven't done this before. And depending on the cast you're dealing with, depends on how much of that you do. But through my own experience, I now know how to change the harmonies as I'm working through stuff, when I hear stuff, to make sure that from an audience's point of view, it will sound the same. So from an audience point of view, you'll never know any difference between what's written on the page and what we end up doing with it, as far as the harmonies go. But from our point of view, we're basically setting the cast up to succeed rather than to fail.
Yeah, the process, talking a little bit about that, kind of off of what James said. Um, it's, we, having worked together in the past, one of the things that we started with this process, knowing that there's a lot of material. This is a full 2-hour production. So, which again, I know you hear this many times from all of us, but we have so many new people that have never even done theater, that when they learned that this was a full 2-hour show, that was a little shocking to them. So we had to balance the process with the learning curve as well. We kind of front loaded the rehearsal process from the get-go with music and dance. So, and reason being is because it helps our cast get that down faster and makes their jobs easier, as well as our jobs easier. Because this way they know it, they can get off book faster. So prepping them for that, obviously at that time of day, their voices are already warmed up.
Mhm.
So we kind of jump into that when we do music. We jump into it right away. When Molly comes into choreograph, she's always getting them physically warmed up, ready to go, getting their bodies moving. When I jump into the acting portion, a lot of times I will throw scenarios out to them or give them little acting exercises to do in order to get to where we need to be with.
So I think the most important thing as a stage manager, kind of in general, is just organization. Um, knowing what's on the schedule for that evening, knowing who in the cast might have a conflict that evening, knowing what is needed for rehearsal that evening, if there's a specific setup that we need. If James is doing music, we need to make sure we have a keyboard. If Molly's doing choreography, we need to make sure that we have plenty of room to move around, things like that. So it's really all the little details and making sure that everybody has what they need for the evening. With this show specifically, we kind of touched on it before, but one of the big things is because this is so new and we are one of the first productions, there's not a lot of things that we can look back at how other productions did things. We have to kind of create our own way of doing it, which is super fun, but can also be a bit of a challenge because you don't have the resources of just looking at how somebody else did it and emulating that.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid, why this show? It's not just because of the fan base that love the show, but there are so many aspects of it that resonate with so many people. Well, actually, every person, because all of us at one point or another went through that school process. James, a little bit different since he's from England.
But we do have school there, so.
They do have school. That's good. But all of us as grown adults now, we all experienced some moment within this show when we were younger. And so I think that's what, for me, resonated the most of why to do this. Again, not just because of the name recognition, because again, we've talked about it. This is a show for everyone. Even if you don't know this show, you need to come see it. Or the books. You don't need to know any of that. It's all laid out for you from the get-go and explained from the moment the show starts. Greg comes out and explains it all. So yeah, for me, that's one of the reasons why. So, and the ability to work with this vast age group of cast members, knowing that we were going to do that. That's a huge thing. So,
Yeah.
What else?
I think that there's also a lot of surprises that this show brings. Not only is it silly and fun and there's lots of different styles and genres and all that fun stuff when it comes to dance and voice, but there's a lot of heartfelt themes that really pull on your heartstrings, not only as a young student, but also as an adult dealing with complicated relationships, dealing kind of what Rob said about growing up in that time frame. But I think that there's a lot of messages that are universally understood and should be received about friendships and difficulty dealing with difficult people, and a relationship between a mother and a son and a father and a son and brothers, and it's all very universal and very heartfelt, I think.
Even the parents go through that growth through the show. They even sing about it within the show.
Yeah.
Like the relationship between a mother and a son, and that connection and that awkwardness between a father and a son.
While the books were written for a young audience, the show, while written to be performed for the most part by a young cast of the age, as far as the audience goes, it isn't just written for a young audience. It is, and it will play beautifully for a young audience that are going through this at the time, but also for adults in the audience who want to come and see the show. It's a beautiful show in its own right. It's not a kids' show as such. It really is universal and works for every age group as far as the audience goes, which is a really nice thing about the show that I like.
Well, and I fell in love with the books. I mean, and I'm an adult, so
I've never actually read the books. Well, I read the first one now, but I hadn't until we started.
No, yeah, the books though, the books are great. So I mean, I read them with my son. That's what caught me on to Diary, and yeah, they're not kids' books.
No.
Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the musical.
At Raue Center for the Arts in downtown Crystal Lake.
Running Thursday, April 18th through Saturday, April 20th.
Tickets at roucenter.org.
Zooey Mama!